Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Monday night sales psychology class and workshop. It is April 3rd, 2023. This is Gary Keith coming to you live from beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm often referred to as the doctor of insurance. He is in the house tonight making calls. He's going to provide some remedies for your sales problems. He's going to provide some prescriptions for your aches and pains in the sales world. He's going to help you up and overcome some of the challenges and roadblocks you face in life. I'm also going to help you increase your closing percentage. And isn't that what it's all about? That we go to school, we attend classes, we take notes, we learn from some of the best, and we increase our closing percentage so that we can bless more lives, and also so that we can put more money in our bank account. And I'm going to help you do that tonight with some of the things we're going to be teaching. So get your notepads ready, but also get your chat buttons ready, because there's a chat feature at the bottom that you can actually type in things. First and foremost, we have a test that we do, a little quiz, if you will. So I want to see what you remember from last week. So far, we've talked about two things. One is the psychology of the sale, what psychology means, what sale means, what doctor means, what insurance means. We talked about tonality. Have you been practicing your tones in the homes with your clients? Are you changing your pace with the way you're saying things? Are you learning to punch and elongate certain words, certain sentences that makes a certain impact upon your presentation? Are you doing that? Are you practicing that? Are you changing your demeanor, your body language in what you're doing? Are you mirroring your clients? If they got their legs folded, you got yours folded, you got your arms folded, you got theirs folded. What are you doing? How are you doing that as far as mimicking or mirroring your clients? These things matter. One more item to remind you of there, and you can take a note of this: 93% of your communication and your client's communication is nonverbal. So only 7% of what you say is actually really communication. They're watching you. They're looking at your eyes, your eyebrows. Where are your eyes, your mouth? They're watching your hands. They're watching your feet, your legs, and your whole body. What are you doing? How are you controlling that or using that to your advantage? Remember, people often forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. How are you making your clientele feel through this process? Through the change of your tone, through the change of your pace, the change of your demeanor. What are you doing? I shared the story last week, and I'll share it one more time, then I won't share it again. With a client just recently, she never met me before, got a lead on her, knocked on the door. She was a hoarder, so she wanted me to come into her house, which is fine. We met on the front porch. I had said 24 words to her, and she said to me, "Gary, I feel that you're a Christian man. Am I correct?" Now, once again, I said before, you don't have to be a Christian person to do this business. And you don't necessarily have to believe in, what I believe in to do that. But I think you have to be a good person. And people have to feel that. They have to sense it. And that's something they get through not necessarily just words, but through your reactions, through your body language, through your tonality, through your kindness, through how you care and love people. They can feel it and sense it. So I want you to continually practice on that, because that's going to be so important in your sales success. Secondly, last week we talked about this market. What did you learn about the final expense market? Remember, I shared with you the story when I got in insurance almost 30 years ago. I was in the long-term care insurance market. I was meeting with the World War II veterans. I'm a 30-some-year-old kid. I'm meeting with 65-year-old grown men and women who've had more experience in life than I'll probably ever experience, and who could tell me about Normandy and Utah Beach and all these other places they'd been to, and the experience they had, and the sacrifices they made, and the loss of limbs and digits and eyes and ears and shrapnel up and down their body. And here I am trying to figure out, how am I going to relate to this person? I have nothing in common with them, nothing. I had to do something. I had to change something. It's a high-end sale. It's a high-end product. I'm meeting with homeowners who've got lots of assets, $500,000, million, 2 million, on up. What do? I said, I got to learn about this clientele if I want to close at a high percentage. That's what I did. I sat on a course to learn as much as I could about that market. What are you doing to understand the market and what you're speaking to every day? If you're a young person in your 20s and 30s, how are you relating to Miss Betty and Mr. Billy, who's 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 years old? What are you doing? How are you relating to them? How do they feel like you are walking a mile in their shoes? How do they feel like you understand them to the degree they want to do business with you? How? That's going to be up to you to do some homework. I gave you some suggestions last week. We'll talk a little bit more about that today, but we're going to dive into something new as well. But I want you to understand your market. I want you to walk a mile in their shoes. I want you to understand the way they think, the way they breathe, the way they live, what they eat, what they drive, how they maneuver in their life affairs. I want you to do that. Does that take work? Yes. Do you have to do some homework on the weekends? Yes. At night? Yes. You're going to have to do that. You're going to close at a high level, understand your market. So I believe you can do it. I know you can do it. It just takes a little bit of effort to make that happen. So don't push that to the side. That's important. Okay. So now let's take a little quiz, and then we'll jump into our lesson for tonight, our workshop, if you will, so that we can get better at closing sales, changing lives, making an impact and a difference in the world in which we live. So get ready, get your chat button ready. Number one, about how many seniors a day are turning 65, roughly? About how many seniors a day are turning 65 years of age? Great job, Roger. 10,000, about 10,000 a day. This is the fastest growing segment in the country right now. The fastest growing. I'm telling you what, as I said before last week, it's like a freight train. If you step in front of that thing, you can get mowed over. They're transferring a lot of wealth. They're also coming to this age where they need help with qualifying for stuff. They need me and you. 10,000, that's a lot of people. That's why I love the senior market, because of the rapid pace in which it's growing. Number two, what is the fastest growing age group? Age group in the country right now. The fastest growing age group, and this is from all the senior studies and the institutes out there who look at people who are getting older. What is the fastest growing age group in our country right now? Anybody? Throw a number. 60 to 70 is a good guess. It's higher than that. 55 to 85. I love the span you put in there. The span, that covers it. You're right. It's actually 80 and over is our fastest growing segment in our country. Now, that was before COVID. So that could have changed things a little bit. But before COVID, it was 80 and over. Think about that for a second. Technology, medication, diet, exercise. These people need a whole life policy. If they're sitting there with an AARP policy, that's a term policy that they bought through the mail, and they bought it at age 65 or 70, it's going to run out on them when they turn 80. You think AARP and New York Life is stupid? They're not. They're brilliant at this. The fastest growing age group is 80 and over. They designed a policy that's going to end at age 80. That's a cash cow for AARP and New York Life. That's a cash cow. No doubt. They're not dumb. That's why they did that, into a certain degree. That's why you can't buy a term policy past the age of 70. A 10-year term, age 70 is pretty much it. And it's going to last to age 80. They know it too. So that's the fastest growing age group in our country right now. Okay, number three. The final expense market is typically middle America or below on the blank totem pole. The final expense market is typically middle America or below on the blank totem pole. What kind of totem pole is a final expense market on the middle America or below? What type of totem pole? That's right, Roger. It's the economic totem pole. Annual income, Joe. Right. Economic totem pole. That's your blue collar America. That's the lifeblood of our country. That's the backbone of our country. That's the people that we see every day. So they need help. They need the help they can get with finding a good policy, and also find something that's reasonable. I just saw Mr. Billy and Miss Betty this afternoon, and they were begging for something they can afford. And it's so sad that Baltimore Life is going to move up their minimum from 15,000 to 25,000. We've been rocking out that 15 to 20,000 product, but now it's going to be 25. But they loved it because the price was so good. Nobody's beating it. They need something they can afford because they're a little bit low on the economic totem pole. Number 4, typically seniors have 2 things working against them when they're trying to qualify for life insurance. Typically, seniors have 2 things working against them when they're trying to qualify for life insurance. What are they? Great, great, great job there, Joe and Roderick. Age and health. So you see, that's why it's important we're independent. I don't want to be a captive agent where I only got one product to offer my clientele. I mean, nothing against these companies, but I don't want to be a part of Senior Life or Lincoln Heritage or Globe Life or AARP or Colonial Penn or any of the other blue chip companies where you got to represent just New York Life or MetLife or Mass Mutual. No, I want to be independent broker so I can shop for my clients. That's why you're here. That's why we're here. Those are things you'll be saying with Miss Betty as hot buttons, as impact words, because she needs to know that she has a chance. Good job, Jasmine, as well. Number 5, this is a very underserved market, this final expense market are, and that is why many end up buying the wrong kinds of policies through the blank and the blank. This is a very underserved market, and that's why many end up buying the wrong kinds of policies through the blank and through the blank. Where do they buy the wrong kinds of policies? Good job, Roderick. That is so true. You and I are rescuing these seniors when they're buying products through the mail and on TV commercials. Most of them are either 2-year waiting period if you're brand new. That's very important that you understand that, because Miss Betty may qualify for a immediate benefit, but she's also buying stuff that's term insurance, stuff that's going to end on her. I say, Miss Betty, did you realize you have a product that's called, it's like bread, milk, and cheese? And she looks at me like I'm got horns on my head. What do you mean I got a product like bread, milk, and cheese? I says, it's got an expiration date on it. You have term insurance. Did you realize that? No. So you see the visual I just created for Miss Betty? When you create visuals, remember I said about this, talked to you about this earlier in our first presentation, is that since this is an intangible product, you don't have anything to touch, to smell, to listen to see, to do anything, to grab your arms around. You have got to create visuals. And so when I say, Miss Betty, oh, Miss Betty, you got the kind of insurance that's like bread, milk, and cheese. She goes, what? Yeah, you got term insurance, got an expiration date on it. That's what she buys through the mail and TV commercials. Number 6, because of their humility, gratitude, and need for help, you will find yourself being the recipient of blank, blank, and blank. Because Miss Betty's down to earth, shows a lot of good gratitude, need for help, you will find yourself being the recipient of blank, blank, and blank from Miss Betty. Ooh, man, Roger's coming through strong tonight. One of the reasons why it's kept me in the final expense business so long is because of that. I mean, Miss Betty probably hasn't had a hug in forever. She hasn't seen her kids in forever. She does not have many visitors. She's lonely. You'll get more hugs, more tears, and more food than you know what to do with. And Mr. Billy today, he was a chef for 30 some years. He says, I wish I'd known you were coming. So I knocked on his door and got in. He says, I said, I'm coming back. He says, you are? I says, yes, sir. He says, tell me when you're coming back. I'm going to cook you a meal like you've never had before. Now, he was talking about good old Southern cooking, which I'm a good old Southern boy. And he was talking about homemade apple pie, and I was going nuts. And I said, Mr. Billy, I'm going to be letting you know when I'm coming back, because he's going to cook me a good old Southern meal. I'm looking forward to it. You're going to get that here, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons why I do the final expense business is because of that. I worked long-term care insurance for years. I can't even recall one meal, one tear, maybe a hug. It's not the clientele. It's not what it is. That's why I want you to understand your market. Number 7, I have personally found the final expense clients to be the best blank generating market in the insurance industry. I have personally found the final expense clients to be the best blank generating market in the insurance industry. Roderick and Jasmine are right on. I'll challenge you. You show me a better referral generating product in the insurance industry, and I'll pay you a Benjamin, $100. I know I've been in it for 30 years. I've sold a lot of different insurance products. Nobody refers better than Miss Betty. Nobody. I'm going to tell you right now. Why? Because she's had the experience, probably just recently, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, a brother, a sister who died unexpectedly with very little to no life insurance. Miss Betty, being the lady of the family, or one of them, had the responsibility of trying to figure out a way to put this person away in some way that was respectful. She had to find a way to come up with the money. She lived it. That's what should get you so passionate about what we do. Miss Betty has lived what we're talking about. Don't be afraid to get referrals from her. And I give her a Walmart gift card. I do, because it's worth it. And I got a lady working for me right now. She get me so many referrals, I can't get enough Walmart gift cards for her. That's how you grow in this business. All right, number 8. This market is typically not driven by a blank. And as a result, you would typically have more no-shows if you are careful. This market is typically not driven by a blank. You're right, Roderick. That is the one challenging side of this market that you newbies need to get to know and understand how to work around it. You got to figure out a way to make sure you don't book these players too far in advance. Because if you do, you're going to have some no-shows. And so I'm going to help you, teach you how to have less and less no-shows by working around Miss Betty's schedule. Next, number 9, because they are not driven by a schedule, it's one of the main reasons I set blank appointments. Because you're not driven by a schedule, it's one of the reasons why I set a blank appointment. Same day, you got it, Joe, or day of. I do same day. One of the beautiful parts I love about this, and I tell everybody this story, I can walk in on Monday morning with no appointments on the books for the week and still write 10 grand for the week. How? Because Miss Betty's home. And I can call her start at 9 a.m. on Monday morning and say, Miss Betty, gonna be there for a few minutes? Yes, I am. I'm watching Price is Right, but I'm in my curlers and my house coat. No worries, Miss Betty.
That makes sense, though.
You put on. Did you have some? Okay, somebody started laughing. I thought they were laughing at me. Okay, well, good. All righty. So same day appointments is a kicker. It's a man, it will make you a lot of business in this business. Don't book these appointments, Miss Betty, 2 days out. Don't. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be disappointed. I might go 24 hours. I'm really slim on that. I try to keep that thing within the same day. Number 10, Miss Betty typically loves watching the following shows on TV and will have them blaring away when I enter her home. What are some of the shows Miss Betty loves watching and they're blaring when I walk in the door? You share some with me. Gunsmoke, yes. I call it the Western Channel. Yes, it's going on all day long. Mr. Billy especially loves the Western Channel. Price is Right, Judge Judy, Western Channel, yes. What else? Let's see, Jan said it last week, which is another one, which is your soap operas. I mean, they'll be watching the soap operas for sure when you go in there as well. Get familiar with them. Get familiar with the older stations and channels. If you're a youngster and still wet behind the ears, as I was when I was doing long-term care insurance, I had to go watch what these folks were watching. I had to get to know them. I watched the documentaries on World War II. I read the books. I saw the movies. I wanted to learn what Normandy was like. I want to be able to walk a mile in their shoes. Young and the Restless for sure, and Days of Our Lives. Is Days of Our Lives still kicking? I guess it is. Young and the Restless, I know it's on all the time. Days of Our Lives, I know they used to love it. Maybe it's still there as well. Okay, number 11. There are some key impact words and phrases I like to use on the phone or at the door that creates curiosity and allows me to get in. What are some of those key impact words and phrases that I might use that's going to get me an appointment or get me in the door? What are they? I mentioned them to you last week. Entitled to, excellent, Jasmine. That is a buzzword for the senior market. It is for everybody. You're entitled. You're entitled to. I say it all the time. And they look at me like, okay, what is that? Well, just give me a few minutes and I'll show you. Entitled to, or that you may qualify for. That's another buzzword. Good, Jasmine. Qualify for. Great. Also switched and changed. Oh, you did it, Joe. Excellent. I get ready to say that one. Instead of saying state, I forgot what it was. State, gosh, I'm having a brain freeze. Anyway, I say state approved. State, I've said it so many times now, I forgot what the one is on the lead. But anyway, state regulated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, state approved is the key there because that means something. It almost sounds like it's official or something. State regulated. What does that mean? So I like impact words and phrases. And the last question before we get to our training tonight is using the right blank, blank, and blank with your phone or door knocking script keeps you from sounding boring and will yield better results. Using the right blank, blank, and blank with your phone or door knocking script keeps you from sounding boring and will yield better results. I love that, Linda. The new 2023 benefits, that is impact words. Anybody using the right blank on your presentations, door, phone, and home, keeps you from sounding boring, you're going to build results. Excellent, Desmond, Sarah, and Joe. Tone, facial expressions, correct, voice inflections, cadence, punching words, elongating words, all those things help you and me grab their attention. Practice those. Use that. Pause sometimes. Slow your voice down sometimes. Even the volume of your voice, slow it down. Lift your voice sometimes. That keeps people's attention. That will keep your clients' attention as well. Okay? Excellente, you folks did great in the quiz. Let's jump into our stuff tonight. Let's see what we're doing to rock and roll on the training on the next section of the psychology of the sale. Ready for it? All righty. This is step one. So far, we've done prelude stuff, which is talking about body language and tonality and things like that. Step two was talking about your market, understanding your market, who they are, where they live, what makes them say what they say and do what they do and drive what they drive and live where they live and buy what they buy. That was the second part, although it was prelude to this. Step one in the presentation. This is where you start getting good at what you're doing, no matter what you're selling. And I want you to be prepared, if you will, to help me read some of this because I don't do all the reading myself. I just don't. So let's see here. Jasmine, are you in a position to read the first three paragraphs? This is called connectivity and mindset. Are you able to read, Jasmine?
Yeah.
Great.
Mindset. There's an adage that states many people communicate, but very few people connect. In addition, it's important to know that communication is about what can I get from you. Connections is about what can I do for you. Along those lines, communication is about making statements. Connections is about asking questions.
Excellent. Think about that for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Let that sink in for just a second as you're communicating with your spouse, with your children, with friends, with loved ones, with your clients. Think about these statements just for a second. Communication is about what can I get from you. Typically, when people are communicating, they're talking so much, so fast, over the other person, can't wait for them to get finished or even interrupt them because they're looking to get something from that person typically, whether it's an attaboy or good job, or my story is better than yours, or I can't believe that, or whatever. Connection is about what I can do for you. That's why you're going to listen more than you talk. And that's why you'll learn to develop the Socratic method of selling. If you don't know what that is, when you get done tonight, look it up. That's where you learn to do more listening and more asking questions than you do talking. That's connection. You can't learn about somebody else if you're doing all the talking. That's communication. You're busy trying to think of your next statement while they're busy trying to think of their next statement. You're communicating words back and forth, but it's typically not sinking in on either end. That's just talking back and forth. We all do it. I'm guilty of it. We're all are susceptible to falling prey to that. But connection is, can I do for you? Boy, that takes a whole different mindset when I'm talking to you. When I'm thinking about what I can do for you, I've kind of pushed myself to the back seat. I've made them the most important, the forefront. So along those lines, communication is about making statements. Connection is about asking questions. That's how you get really good. Now, not to try to get too philosophical or spiritual or religious, however you want to talk about it, but the master teacher in the Bible was excellent at asking questions. Typically, when you do that, you learn so much about the person you're communicating with, what their needs are, how you can solve those needs, and how it can be a win-win for both parties. All righty, next. Roger, if you're in a position to read the next 3 paragraphs.
All right, said 2 phrases for connection. I've never met anyone like you. A day is always better when you're in it.
Pause 1 second there for me, Roger. Think about
Okay.
this, ladies and gentlemen. Pause 1 second. I've never met anyone like you. Think about when you first fell in love with someone, or you're trying to develop a really strong relationship. Think about this for a moment. You're trying to make that connection with that individual. Spouse, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, or a strong interconnection with a person. In your mind, you're thinking, I've never met anyone like you. That's how you treat Miss Betty and Mr. Billy. No matter where they are in their life, no matter what they're going through, no matter how their house looks, no matter what they drive, what they're wearing, what they sound like, no matter what their personal hygiene is, I've never met anyone like you. You won't say this, but this is what's coming across on your face and your eyes. Number 2, a day is always better when you're in it. When you've got that mindset about a person, you're glowing. This is how you sell people without saying a word. This is what the lady saw a couple of weeks ago when she says, I detect you're a Christian, good person, a moral person, person of high character, whatever you want to say there. She just happened to be a Christian lady. She detected it because my eyes were open and I was attentive, I was listening. And the reason why I'd only said maybe a couple dozen words, I was doing asking questions, she was talking. Remember this right here, write that down. And I'm going to tell you, you become a powerful individual in your relationships when you learn to do these things right here. You learn to connect in a way that nobody else is connecting. I can promise you that. This is where salespeople fail right here. They fail. They're too busy communicating, talking back and forth, talking over someone, can't wait for them to be quiet, trying to think of the next thing. That's their problem. That was my problem for years. When I learned to connect, I did so much less talking. I did a lot more asking questions. And they saw it in my eyes, these two things right here. All right, go ahead, Roger.
Live in such a way that if your presence doesn't impact, then your absence won't make a difference.
Strong. Go ahead.
Keep in mind the final expense sale is a very emotional and touchy-feely interaction. I am in no hurry to push or force this part of the sale. I would take as much time as necessary for Miss Betty to feel comfortable with me. Unlike many other types of sales, including other insurance products, this is not a transactional sale. I am mimicking my client's body language, tone, demeanor, and attitude. I am totally engaged in making an emotional connection. It's much more. Oh,
Great. Stop right there. Great. Pause right there. Roger, thank you so much for reading. That's excellent. Excellent. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen, what I just said there for just those couple of paragraphs. Let that sink in for a second. It's a very emotional sale. Most insurance is. It's a touchy-feely interaction. Most of this is. That's why you get the hugs and the tears. I'm in no hurry. I've seen agents go in homes and their warm-up was like about 2 to 3 minutes. And dude, it was like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Disingenuine, insincere, didn't really care about the client, just want to present some numbers, try to get a sale and move on. I am not going to be in that business. I'm just personally not. I'm going to be there for that client. In paragraph, the second one, I am, let's see what I say here. I would take as much time as necessary for Miss Betty to feel comfortable. That's why I can't give you a time on my, what you call warm up, what you call building rapport, which I call connectivity stage. I can't give you a time. People go, well, how much time do you take for your warm up? I don't know. It depends on the client. It depends upon the emotional connection. It depends upon, are we reading each other? Are we connecting on that level? And I said, I'm totally engaged in making emotional, I really am. And I'm not going to move from that until I feel like it's there. Okay, now with that in mind, thank you, Roderick, so much. Joe, are you in a position to read?
Yep, just had to get unmuted.
Okay, great, brother. Go right ahead.
It's much more and deeper than building rapport or doing what some call a warm up. This is an eye to eye, heart to heart, and soul to soul type of communication. I am there 100% for Miss Betty. I want her to know and feel that. In addition, I'm building a case. I'm a detective. I'm looking for clues and cues as to what motivates Miss Betty to act today. In other words, what are her hot buttons that will cause her to move forward, protect her family, and trust me as her insurance agent forever? I am not into the wham bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of interaction or sales process. This section of the sale may take me 15 or more minutes to complete. Miss Betty loves the attention and the interaction. I'm probably her entertainment for the week.
Okay, pause right there, Joe.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Excellent work, Joe. Excellent work. All righty, so listen to that. Let that sink in for just a second, ladies and gentlemen. It's an eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul type of connection. You think salespeople that are doing warm-ups out there are doing what I'm saying here? No, they're not. I've been teaching salespeople my whole life. They are not doing this eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul type of connection. Not bragging, but it's one of the reasons I believe I close at extremely high level, because I'm going to be different than the average agent out there. Now, I'm not going to be some psychiatrist or psychologist or something like that and try to solve all Miss Betty's problems. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a human emotional connection. I'm there for her. She knows it. She feels it. I'm not looking at my watch. I'm not trying to see how fast I got the door, get to the next. I'm not doing any of that. I'm building a case. I'm a detective. I'm looking for cues and clues at what motivates Miss Betty. I want you to learn to do that. Be self-aware of what's going on around you. Look and listen for the hot buttons. Because at first you may think there's no chance of a sale here. But if you understand how to be self-aware and look for the hot buttons, you'll close more sales than what you ever thought you would by knowing that. Excuse me. All righty. Now, Miss Betty does love the attention, that's for sure. All right, let's see who else I've got with me here who can do a little reading for me. Daniel, are you in the position to read?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Start with if I ask questions.
If I ask questions, sit back and listen carefully. Miss Betty will sell herself in this connectivity stage. I'm going to come across humble, unassuming, and relaxed. There's nothing formal taking place here. I'll probably be sitting in her living room. If the place is messy, unclean, or out of order, I pay no attention to that. My job and goal are to protect Miss Betty and her family. Continue.
One more, yes.
Even though I'm a detective, I am not an interrogator. I practice good bedside manners, even as a doctor would toward a patient. I'm gathering facts, problems, and challenges to build my case as to why Miss Betty needs me and my product.
Great. Excellent, Daniel. Thank you so much. So you can see what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. Think about a doctor with the good bedside manners with their patient. They spend a lot of time asking questions. When I do this, how do you feel? When I touch that, how do you feel? Or how do you feel with this situation? Well, what is this all about here? And tell me some more about this situation. So they're busy asking questions while you're doing a lot of the talking, and you're building your case at the same time. You are the detective, but you're not grilling so much that you come across as an interrogator. Oh, I see, Miss Betty. I can see why that would be a problem. So you are making some comments after her statements that come across more as that doctor with good bedside manners. That's how you're building your case. That's why everything that's going on here, you're aware of it. Now, I don't take notes at this stage of the game because I don't want to prohibit Miss Betty from being open with me. I don't want to put something in the way that she'll go, why does he write down everything I'm talking about? I don't do that. I keep it in my mind. I'm building my case, and that's how I'm doing it. All righty, let's move on next to the next part of this. Let's see who we have on staff here tonight. Melvin, are you in a position to read?
Yes, sir.
Great. Start with therefore.
Therefore, I use the form method to keep me on track and help me build my case and discover her hot button. F, family. O, occupation. R, recreation. M, money. Family. I spend as much time as possible talking about Miss Betty's family. Who doesn't like to talk about their most favorite topic, kids and grandkids? This information is so important in building your case and helping Miss Betty recognize why she sent the card in and who it is she's trying to protect. Remember, all of this is done conversationally with genuine interest and love for her and her family. I want to know about Miss Betty's parents, brothers and sisters, where she was born, where was she born and raised? How long did her parents live, and if they are still alive today? How about grandparents, uncles and aunts? This will tell me if she has longevity in her family. Perhaps she has a policy in place and feels it's enough. But if she is only 60 years old and a lot of her family lived into their 80s and 90s, her policy may be outdated and she may be underinsured. I'm looking for cracks in the coverage and opportunities to enhance what she has. I want to know how many kids she has, boys and or girls, who lives close by, who is she close to, who lives far away, what do they do for a living, how many grandkids, who is the apple of her eye, who does she brag about and dote over.
All right, thank you, Melvin.
Yes, sir.
What's your comments on this, Melvin, so far on the family portion?
Well, you're trying to you're really, number one, trying to establish that rapport and showing genuine interest. But then at the same time, as you start talking about family members and grandkids and kids, you're also tugging at Miss Betty's heart. And then that just pretty much, sells it. Then number one, she's going to remember why she sent the card in. And then number two, she's going to know that you have a genuine, you really care about taking care of her and her family the people that she loves the most.
Excellent. Love it.
Hey,
Perfect summation.
Gary, I've got a question for you though.
Yes, sir.
At what point, okay, and you can laugh if you want, but at what point do they start to feel, or do you start to feel a little creepy about getting, really digging in to find out what the family's like, how old are the kids? If it's not really, really pertinent to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, great question. And I think I mentioned it before up here. Remember, all this is done conversationally with genuine interest of the family. So, Miss Betty, you have how many kids now? Yeah, 4. My gosh, what are their ages? So it's all done conversationally like that. Do they live around this area or are they scattered out and about? Oh, I see. So you were born and raised there then, but you moved here. So that's where your parents are from then, I take it. Okay. And your grandparents, did they live a long life? Oh, your dad was 85 and your mom was 90. My gosh, you got good genes, don't you? I bet, Miss Betty, you're probably gonna crack 100. So I'm throwing in conversations with this. So remember, I said, don't be an interrogator. And what you're saying, Daniel, will be absolutely right. You'd come across like that. But if I'm keeping it conversationally, I'm building a case, but at the same time, I'm getting what I need, but I'm doing it in such a way that I'm sincere and I'm genuine with the process. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's just that, I put myself in their place, when I'm practicing and thinking about what I might say to people.
Right.
And if it gets a little too deep or off topic, like, hey, I remember when I was trying to sell 2 young women a mortgage protection policy, and it was a simple thing like, well, what interest rate did you get? And they freaked out. Why do you need to know that? That type of thing.
Yeah, that's a different market, different sale, different clientele. So I get it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, remember Miss Betty, lonely, by herself in most cases. The family's the apple of her eye. She is unassuming, low key. She's humble, salt of the earth. Different market. So I would approach that differently with my mortgage protection people, no question. And we can have that conversation offline, and I can help you with that. And I think Rob Boyd's on here too, at least he was, and he's one of the mortgage protection guys. But yes, that is a different market. I didn't do the same with my long-term care clients as we're talking here.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. But if you'll do this right, and so, my gosh, Miss Betty, so you have 2 boys and 2 girls. What a lovely family. How many grandkids are you up to now? Well, goodness gracious, I'm sure they're the apple of your eye, aren't they? Oh, yeah, especially this 12-year-old who FaceTimes me, and this conversation just keeps rolling with Miss Betty. It's a different market, different clientele. Then I find out the 12-year-old is the apple of her eye. Then I find out Miss Betty says, well, I got $25,000 personally in life insurance for my final expenses. But I found out that Sarah here is the apple of her eye, her little granddaughter. And Miss Betty, have you ever thought about putting some money aside for your granddaughter so you pass away because she's apple of your eye? Oh yeah, I'm already trying to do that. Now I got a savings account open for her. Now I'm going to come back with life insurance is a much better deal, and you get don't have to be taxed on it, and it bypasses probate, and it goes directly to her, and blah blah blah. So these are the things I'm uncovering here with Miss Betty. Now, once again, if you're starting to get uncomfortable with anything, don't pursue that and don't go down that road. I want you to be comfortable with what you're doing for sure. And I want you to just practice this. It takes a little time. But I think a lot of people who are high closures on here are probably doing something very similar to what I just shared with you here. All right, stay with me. I've made hundreds of sales with Miss Betty by making a connection with her family's needs, desires, and loves. Remember, Miss Betty loves her family and wants to protect them from having to go around and do the BBS program, which is beg, borrow, and steal. It really bothers her with the thought of her kids and grandkids having to do that when she passes away. Sometimes when she doesn't feel she needs any more insurance, I'm still able to sell policies based on gifting and leaving a legacy for the grandkids. It's very powerful when you find her hot button and what her needs really are. Now would be a great time to make your first connection with Miss Betty. You can show her pictures of your spouse. This also breaks up the monotony, Daniel. You show your pictures of your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, pets, things like this. Now it becomes interactive. You walk in a mile in her shoes and she goes, oh, that's your kids? Oh, that's your grandkids? Oh, that's your dog? Oh, that's amazing. Now you got this going on, this type of connection. This brings out the human side of you and allows her to take a sneak peek into your personal life. In addition, showing her a copy of your insurance license and driver's license even will help bring the walls of skepticism and establish some credibility. That's all part of this connectivity stage in the family section, right? Practice it, play around with it. Make one step today that you didn't make yesterday. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it all in one time. Take your time, but eventually you will get there. It's called becoming a good conversationalist and knowing how to keep the ball up in the air. Okay, that's what you're doing here. All righty, next on occupation here, I need a reader. Sarah, are you in a position to read? Okay, no Sarah. Let's see here. Michael, you in a position to read?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go right ahead, occupation.
Occupation. Since I'm trying to make a connection, I'm looking for things in common. Personally, I have a farming and blue collar background. I'm going to try and connect with Miss Betty on that level if she has a similar background. I'm going to talk with her about chickens, cows, pigs, tobacco fields, huge gardens, canning, freezing food, etc. If we can't connect on that level, then I will find something else to connect our background together with. Remember, connectivity is the key. In addition, I want to find out what kind of work and jobs Miss Betty has done through the years. Somewhere along the lines, I'm going to find a connection with myself or someone in my family that has a similar experience. I want to be on her level in life. I don't and will not come across as I'm better or in any way, shape, form, or fashion that my life or job is superior to hers. She is family as far as I'm concerned, and I treat her as such. Along those lines, as a detective, I'm listening and searching for what type of pension her job may have provided, or is she just living on Social Security income? This area begins to open to the door for income qualification and what she may be able to afford.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that so much.
Yeah, well,
That's your next step, ladies and gentlemen. So it's all rolling as part of your conversation. Gosh, you got some wonderful kids, Miss Betty, amazing grandkids. You lived here all your life. Your parents are still living. Your grandparents lived to be an old age. That tells me a lot of things about her and her life and longevity. And so, Miss Betty, so you've been here most of your life. What type of work did you do before you retired? It was all part of the conversation, and she'll tell you about that. And she'll also tell you about where she grew up and what type of life she lived. These are all things that you really don't have to pry out of Miss Betty. You just get her talking and she'll talk about all these things and she'll tell you what her life is. And then you can make a connection. And a lot of that's based on occupation as well. Okay, did I see you, Sarah, come unmuted? Are you in a position to read now?
Yeah, I can read now.
Oh, thank you. Recreation.
All right. This area tells me several things about Miss Betty. It will tell me how active she is. It will tell me a great deal about her health. Also, it will tell me about discretionary income. I want to know if Miss Betty is getting out and about traveling, going places with her kids and grandkids or church family, or is she pretty much a couch potato and sits home and watches TV for the most part? This kind of detective work opens the door wide open to give me insight about her health, monies, and lifestyle. Typically, when seniors are active, their health is better and they have extra income to spend and enjoy. On the other hand, if she tells me she can't afford to go anywhere or do anything extra but pay bills, then I know I have to be careful on what I recommend and present to Miss Betty. Unfortunately, it's also an indication she may sit around a lot, have a poor diet, watch a lot of TV, and is not very mobile. That type of lifestyle would indicate what she may or may not be able to qualify for health-wise. Remember, you are a detective building a case and getting your thoughts in order before you make a recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. So that's part of being a detective work as well, is learning about recreation. So Miss Betty, what do you do for fun now that you're retired? What do you do now? Oh, gosh, I spend time with my grandkids. We're always going to the park. I'll take them to the movies sometimes. I will go on vacation with them. Miss Betty's active. She gets out there and she's involved. And perhaps when she told me she retired from the state after 30 years there and she has a pension, then I know she's got some discretionary income. I know that she could handle probably some more insurance if needed. Or maybe she wants to buy some policies to give to her children or grandkids. So these tells me a lot of things about her activity, health-wise. All of these things are part of that. Also, when she tells about recreation, it may be something that you are heavily involved in. That's a part of another connection. Well, I belong to a bowling league and I bowl every Thursday night with a group of friends from the church. Okay, if you're a bowler, then you may be able to connect with Miss Bailey on that level. She may go, I do bingo every Monday night over here at the local senior center. Maybe you love bingo. Guess also what I found out when I'd say things like that. Miss Betty, can I come call a game sometime for the group and come in there and do a little presentation? So I find out about my senior center so I can go do presentations. I'll call a game of bingo. I'll bring in prizes. All these things you're doing detective work on. You're building a case. You're getting referrals. You'll go see a senior market, or maybe not. Maybe Miss Betty says, I'm really struggling. I don't really go anywhere or do much. My kids are far away. My grandkids are far away. So that tells you a whole different story as you're listening to that as well. I'm living on basic Social Security. I'm maybe struggling to keep my bills paid or whatever. I'm gonna have to go cremation, a little starter policy. I may not be able to afford anything. Or I may find out that Miss Betty has an old whole life policy she's had for 20 years, sitting over $5,000 worth of cash value in it, that she could use that money to live on, pay some bills, fix her car, fix her whatever. And then I can help her get a new policy if her health is still good. A lot of things I'm learning. I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when the connectivity part is done right, most of the sale is already done. They have felt your demeanor, your posture, your eye contact, your tone, how much interest you have in them. They feel the love, the care. It's pretty much done. The sale isn't made at the end. It's made right here. It's made in this part right here. All righty, let's move on to money, money, money. Miss Linda, are you in a position to read?
Yes, I think I got my grandbaby right here.
Look at you, girl. So happy to hear from you.
Oh, she talking.
That's all right. I love grandbabies, so go right ahead.
Woo, money is the one area I want to carefully pay close attention to. I'm listening to and for monies or the lack thereof in each area of form. Each area is a reflection on monies and disposable income. If Miss Betty has lots of disposable income already, has a good size policy, then I will find other cracks in her protection and suggest insurance as a way to fill those areas. I will put on the hat and take on the demeanor of a different kind of protective agent.
Hold it
Got
right
plenty
there.
of, and then I will, okay.
You're excellent. Thank you so much for jumping in while you're taking care of your grandbaby.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to see you next month.
Yes, thank you. Same
All right.
here.
Thank you. So listen, ladies, especially if you're new, sort of new, just getting this business. When Miss Betty says she already has plenty of life insurance, that's okay. Don't let that deter you. I'm going to take on different demeanor and different hat. No worries, Miss Betty. Life insurance is different. I'm the burial insurance guy. Oh, I love this because now when Miss Betty, don't walk into a funeral home with life insurance, Miss Betty. That should go to your grandkids. You got a $20,000 policy. Don't do that. Guess how much a funeral end up calling? $19,999. You want a burial policy for that. Miss Betty says, well, I got plenty of burial insurance. And I'll be a life insurance guy to replace income. So Mr. Billy today and Miss Betty today most of the time men pass away first. He had the larger retirement income. I said, Mr. Billy, did you realize when you pass away that Miss Betty's going to lose your retirement income? Yeah. How's she going to afford to stay in this house? I don't know. Who's going to pay the bills and keep the lights on, get all the food around here, pay the property taxes, pay all the taxes on the cars and vehicles, keep them running, pay all the gas and everything else? Well, I don't know. Guess what? Unless she gets a boyfriend real quickly, Mr. Billy, ha ha ha, she's going to be stuck with trying to replace your income somehow, some way. And the best way you can do that is through life insurance. Why? Income tax free to the beneficiary, bypasses probate, bypasses creditors. Okay, they go straight to the beneficiary, all of it, 100%. I got plenty of life insurance, and that will cover my burial too. If they say that kind of stuff, then no worries, Miss Betty. I'm what you call a legacy protection guy. I help teach and show seniors how to leave monies to their kids and grandkids. Income tax free from life insurance instead of in a savings account, or be taxed to death. I got plenty of regular life insurance for all those things. Miss Betty, I'm a property protection guy to leave money behind for family to pay property tax. I remember sitting with a lady, and she's sitting there with I think it was a $40,000 life insurance policy. And I was out in Zebulon, North Carolina, out in the country, and she had all this land out here, and she loved her 4 boys to death. I said, Miss Betty, it looks like you're pretty protected with your life insurance and with your burial insurance and stuff like that. Let me commend you, but you got one problem you're going to have when you pass away. Ladies and gentlemen, just be quiet, create some curiosity. It's amazing what happens. She goes, what is that? Your boys are going to be stuck with heavy duty property taxes on this property. It's in your name, right? Yeah. They're going to be stuck with it. And they're going to need some monies to help pay that. Let me recommend something to you, Miss Betty. Let that $40,000 you got right now go those boys directly to them so they can help keep this place alive when you pass away. What you need right now is a separate burial policy just for that, so it doesn't get in the middle of what they're doing. And she looked at me and her jaw dropped. She went, huh, that makes a lot of sense. And she bought a nice $20,000 policy that otherwise she'd been telling agents who came in her door for years, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, and bought nothing. But you can use things like this to help you. I got plenty of life insurance for all those things. Must be I'm a mortgage protection guy to keep the house from going into foreclosure when you pass away. What are you gonna do with this house when you pass? You gonna go to your son? He's gonna have a problem. What is that? You're gonna try to keep the place up, keep the lights on, keep the bills paid, and pay the taxes on it, and pay the inheritance taxes on it. That's why a lot of places go into foreclosure. They can't afford it, so they go ahead and sell or foreclose. You can become a mortgage protection. I'm sorry, capital gains. What did I say? Estate taxes, maybe a little bit of both.
Tax, yeah.
Property tax, capital gains. Yes. Thank you, Rob. All right. Bring it into the closing point, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you get the point. I'll become a chameleon depending upon where Miss Betty is not fully covered and protected. On the other hand, if Miss Betty is basically broke and living day to day and can barely make ends meet, then I want to know that up front. There are still ways I can help her. I just need to know her situation. And what ways I help them is I get on the phone. Well, you probably won't do this, but I do this. I call their internet company. I have called their power company. I've called their cable company and see if I can get special reduction for seniors to free up money to buy life insurance. I've literally done that and help people. There's still ways I can help her. I just need to know her situation to see how I can help you and find out which program is best for you. I need to ask you a question, Ms. Betty. So what does your Social Security look like each month? Most of the time she will tell me if she has no coverage and limited income, I might go down the road of a cremation policy, something small, something affordable. Along those lines, let's not be too hasty and throw the baby out with the bathwater. I will ask Ms. Betty about her current coverages, and if she has a policy in place, I'll ask her, should be her, for how long. She could have an old whole life policy, which I mentioned before, in place for 20 years. She may have a ton of cash value sitting in it, doing nothing. If her health is still great, perhaps I might help her get some monies out and get a new policy. Call your upline if you need help with this. This is big. This is, you get into a home and Miss Betty's telling you, I got plenty, or I can't afford anything else, or blah, blah, blah. You find out these other policies, and we as your upline will help you figure out what to do with them. I must be careful here. and so will you. We don't want to encourage her to get rid of something that's not in her best interest. We always must do what is best for the client. And if her needs are great, living hand to mouth, can't afford to get her home or car repaired, and she is sitting there on several $1,000s of cash, then helping her retrieve that may be an option. One of the services I do for Ms. Betty is call the insurance company for her, get all the details, and find out all the options for her. Sometimes we can help her get a paid up policy on her current plan, save her some money, and get her additional plan. Call your upline for this. We'll be glad to walk you through all these things and teach you how to do it. In closing, the connectivity step is very vital in setting the proper stage for an effective and rewarding outcome for you and your prospect. I suggest you do not take a shortcut in the step of the presentation. Take your time. A bird in hand is worth more than two in the bush, as the old saying goes. As you do this correctly, you are now in a very trustworthy position to take the next step very confidently. You are armed with information as a detective to solve the case. Let me pause. Questions, comments, thoughts? All righty. Next week, we'll have a quiz on this. We'll see how much you retain. Practice this week. Your job is to practice doing a connection with your client, not just a maybe insincere or disingenuous warm up that you're just trying to get to the step and get to the next part of the presentation. Really practice listening, practice the Socratic method of selling, where you're asking more questions than you're telling. Practice eye contact, practice your body language, tonality. Now, you can't do all this overnight. I'm not trying to turn you into a pro overnight. This is years and years and years of study for me. So I just want you to do one step at a time and you try to get better. Listen to your voice, listen to what you're saying, listen to what you're asking, and you'll practice getting closer to Miss Betty by becoming a detective and also a doctor-patient relationship through the connectivity stage. I challenge you to work on improving and getting better at what you're doing. And the way you do that is through practice. You'll come back next week. You'll say, Gary, I tried this. This worked. I tried this and it didn't work. And we'll get better together as we practice these things. Well, congratulations on passing your first step and becoming a master final expense closer. I call this 10 steps. It's really the same 5 steps that we already teach. I just break it down to bite-sized pieces, but it's really the same stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your participation tonight. Thank you for all the things that you're doing to help make yourself better, grow better, improve better, and gain more income. Until we meet again.
Thank you very much for doing this, man. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary. This is great.
Thank you.
Guys are all
Very
amazing.
good.
You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much for your time and participation.
Thank
Thank you. Until we meet again, same time, same station. Good luck out there and good selling.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.